I am not ready to die because it requires infinitely higher courage to live. The quote by Sarojini Naidu perfectly encapsulates the indomitable will and courage of Indian women during the freedom struggle. Fighting on different fronts, Indian women freedom fighters had it tougher than their male counterparts. For they had to toggle between Gandhiji's Sita and Draupadi ideal at one end, and on the other, they had to fight shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts, the way Aruna Asif Ali, Captain Lakshmi Sehgal, and others did. To celebrate such all-rounders, we have today's question as: discuss the role of women in the freedom struggle, especially during the Gandhian phase. Many voices of the nation echoed through the chambers of struggle for freedom. Women, as one of the most significant groups, have been one such prominent voice, which, despite their hardships, presented a dominant front to the foreign rule. From being an active force to shaping the trajectory of Indian national movement, from projecting the Indian values embedded in our culture, to define gender norms, various roles of women in the freedom struggle, especially during the Gandhian phase, could be seen as: 1. Active participation and mass mobilization. Participation of women was an imperative for the national movement to pervade the feeling of nationalism across the length and breadth of the country. This is evident in their fearless participation in various movements, notably Quit India movement, Civil Disobedience movement, Tarsana Satyagraha, etc. 2. Evoking the spirit of self-reliance. Women presented themselves as a strong economic, cultural and social agent to prepare India against callous dumping of both foreign ideals and goods on our land. Initiatives taken up by Usha Mehta, Aruna Asif Ali, Captain Lakshmi Sehgal are shining examples in this regard. Leadership. Various women like Sucheta Kriplani, Nalini Sen-Gupta, Sarojini Naidu, and others rose through the ranks to provide a robust leadership to various strands of nationalist organizations. 4. Practical manifestation of sacrifice and love. Women like Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, at different positions, not only gave up their coveted positions to make the mass movement a success, but also propagated the universal message of love, affection, care, and femininity, which were indeed the characters associated with the Bharat Mata. 5. Revolutionary zeal. Women, both individually, like Binita Das, and as a part of a revolutionary group, like Kalpana Dutt in Chittagong Armory Red, ensured that women were equally responsible to keep the revolutionary zeal alive. Social reforms. Reformers like Sarla Devi Chaudrani of AIWC also worked incessantly to ameliorate the condition of women and uplift their position in the contemporary India. While Gandhian phase saw the climax of women participation, the legacy of women participation to fight for the land and glory predates Gandhian era. Valiant warriors like Rani Lakshmibai, Rani Chennamma, Jankari Bai, Velu Nachiyar, social reformers like Savitribai Phule, Kadambili Gaunguli, Pandita Ramabai, and political leaders like Annie Besant, Basanti Devi, etc. helped foster a rich culture where women immortalize their names in the pages of history. I hope you liked the session. Thank you so much.
Hello and namaste everyone. Welcome to Srijan Community-led series, Podcast 1. I'm your host, Morningstar, bringing to you some fascinating insights on geography and environment. Today, we are discussing a question that is crucial for both our exams and for our survival as a global community. How is climate change worsening water and food security challenges worldwide? And what are the recent policy responses? Climate change is disrupting vital resources, affecting billions. Our focus today is on recent events and responses. Let's start by understanding why climate change is such a significant threat, especially in vulnerable tropical regions. So, let's break it down, shall we? Okay, so first off, why is climate change a major threat to water and food security in tropical countries? Well, climate change is altering weather patterns, causing prolonged droughts, intense storms, and unpredictable rainfall. These changes disrupt water availability by affecting both surface and groundwater sources. For instance, the 2023 drought in East Africa has severely impacted water supplies and agriculture, affecting water and food security, while pushing millions towards famine. Similarly, the Sahel region has faced increased drought frequency since the 1970s, a trend which is linked to global warming. So, with this understanding of the threats, how are nations responding to these challenges? You see, countries are adopting integrated water management and climate-resilient agricultural practices. In 2024, India launched the National Mission on Climate-Resilient Agriculture to develop drought-resistant crop varieties and improve water use efficiency. Similarly, the EU is investing in sustainable infrastructure to mitigate the impact of climate change on water resources, while Israel's drip irrigation showcases effective water management in arid conditions. Now, considering that climate change is a global issue that demands a coordinated response, how are countries collaborating to address these shared challenges? Well, international cooperation is crucial, as climate change impacts are transboundary. The Paris Agreement and the UN's SDG emphasize international cooperation. At COP28 in 2023, nations agreed to bolster support for developing countries, focusing on water and food security through technology transfer and capacity building. Now here's a question for you. Which 2024 event focused on addressing nexus between climate change and food security is bringing together global leaders to discuss sustainable solutions? Please share your answers in the comments below. So, what can communities and individuals do in these challenging times? Community actions like rainwater harvesting and managing irrigation systems can make a big difference. Individuals can reduce food waste, choose sustainable diets, and support local agriculture. Every such action helps build resilience against climate change. Now here's another question for you. What percentage of global greenhouse gas emissions comes from agriculture? Leave your answers in the comment section. So, it is evident that climate change is reshaping our world in ways that we are only beginning to understand. As we face these challenges, it's clear that we all have a role to play, from policymakers to everyday citizens. Now, before we end this session, here's a question for you to ponder. Considering the role of geographical factors in recent global events, how can we better integrate climate resilience into water and food security planning? You can share your structured answers in the comments or on our discussed handle in about 250 words. Thank you for joining me today and stay tuned for more insights and updates. This was your host Morningstar, guiding you through the dawn of knowledge in geography and environment. Have a great day everyone. Adios.
Hello all, this is your host Arjuna. Let's continue our discussion on economy. Today's topic of discussion is gender budgeting and its importance.
Gender budgeting is defined by the Ministry of Women and Child Development as a tool to achieve gender mainstreaming and ensuring benefits of development reaches women as much as men. The government publishes a gender budget statement every year along with the union budget to review the programs from a gender perspective and present information on allocation for women. It is an analysis of the budget through a gender lens rather than creating a separate budget for women. The goal is to examine the gender-specific impact of the budget and align it with the gender commitment. Examples of the programs that benefit women more than men include Nal Se Jal Abhiyan, Ujjwala Yojana, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, etc. Let's see how gender budgeting can ensure women empowerment in India. First, it acts as a powerful tool for achieving the gender mainstreaming so as to ensure that benefit of development reaches women as much as men. Second, it recognizes the need of the affirmative action to address specific needs of women. Third, it sensitizes the government and society towards the discrimination and gaps among women and men in a given sector. Fourth, gender-responsive budget policies can contribute to achieve the objective of gender equality, human development, and economic efficiency. Fifth, gender budgeting at department led to more focus on issues of women inequality and empowerment and thereby led to more specific allocation on such schemes. Sixth, it put pressure and focus on the gender-sensitive program formulation and implementation. Therefore, it mainstreamed gender concerns in public expenditure and policy. Seventh, it led to women empowerment by increasing and improving the social, economic, and political situation of the women and ensured the equal right to women. It helps women to control and benefit from the resources, assets, and income, as well as to enable them to manage the risk and take decisions good for them. Eighth, it ensures that benefit of development reaches each woman as much as it benefits men. For example, schemes like Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana enhances the economic status of girls. Ninth, it led to increased focus on education, health, and safety of women. For example, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao has resulted in increased child sex ratio in vulnerable areas. 10th, it ensures women health through policies and schemes. For example, Janani Suraksha Yojana Maternity Benefit Act 2016 has ensured good health for women. There are some challenges in the gender budgeting. For example, lack of data and information on the gender impacts the government policies and program. Second, resistance to change and limited understanding of the importance of gender budgeting. Third, lack of political will and resources for implementing the gender budgeting effectively. Fourth, difficulty in integrating the gender considerations into complex budget process and decision-making structures. In the recent budget 2023 and 24, it has been noticed that there is a marginal rise in the allocation for the Women and Child Development Ministry for Women. The allocation under the gender budget roses from 1.71 lakh crore in 22-23 to 2.23 lakh crore in 2023 and 24, which is an increase by 23% compared to 22 and 23. The gender component accounted for 4.9% of entire budget compared to 4.23% of entire budget in 2022 and 23. The allocation for the Union Ministry for Women and Child Development saw a marginal increase of 1%. Around 90% of gender budgeting is concentrated in 5 ministries: Rural Development, Women and Child Development, Agriculture, Health and Family Welfare, and Education. Key areas in need of attention like transportation, water collection, and security remains ignored in the budget. The allocation for Mission Shakti, which includes key schemes for women protection, saw a decrease of 1.2%. Part A of gender budget, which accounts for allocation for the schemes exclusively for women, saw a 70% increase from last year. The majority of this increase went to the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana rural housing scheme, whose inclusion in the gender budget is questioned. since it does not benefit women exclusively. However, not all is negative about the gender budgeting in India. Certain new trends are encouraging. A positive trend over the past couple of years has been the pre-budget consultation organized by the Ministry of Finance, aimed at ensuring that the voices of women are also heard in the budget making process. Thank you so very much. This is all we have for today. If you like our content, please do subscribe to our channel and do visit. Thank you so much.
Welcome, dear listeners, to another captivating episode of Timeless Temples. I am your host, Falcon, and today we embark on a journey through the intricate world of Indian temple architecture. Imagine standing before an ancient temple, its spires reaching for the sky. The temple isn't just a physical structure, it's a sacred space, a tirtha, where spiritual seekers connect with the divine. Let's explore how temples have shaped India's cultural landscape. Our focus today will be on Dravidian temple architecture, and we are going to discuss another previous year question, that is, discuss the key features of Dravidian temple architecture and how they reflect the socio-cultural context of South India during the medieval period. Dravidian temple architecture, originating in the Tamil Nadu region, evolved significantly during the medieval period, particularly under the patronage of the Pallavas, Cholas, and Vijayanagar rulers. This architectural style is characterized by its distinct features and grand scale, reflecting the socio-cultural milieu of South India. Do you know about components of Dravidian temple architecture? Well, here is it. The first one is Gopuram, known as gateway towers. These towering structures serve as the entrance to the temple complex, symbolizing the threshold between the earthly and divine realms. They are often adorned with intricate carvings and sculptures depicting mythological stories. Number 2 is Vimana, known as Sanctum Tower, the central tower above the Sanctum Sanctorum, representing Mount Meru, the cosmic axis in Hindu cosmology. The third one is Mandapa, known as pillared halls. These halls are used for various purposes such as worship, dance, and music performances. They reflect the temple's role as a cultural hub. Number 4 is Prakara, known as boundary walls. Enclosing the temple complex, these walls signify the sacred space and provide security. The fifth one is Garbhagriha, known as Sanctum Sanctorum, the innermost chamber where the main deity resides, symbolizing the heart of the temple. Now, you must be curious to know about the reasons for development of temples. You can jot down these points as well. The emphasis on the bhakti led to the construction of grand temples to facilitate worship and pilgrimage. Rulers like the Cholas and Vijayanagar kings promoted temple building as a means of legitimizing their rule and showcasing their power. The wealth generated from agriculture and trade allowed for the funding of elaborate temple constructions. Temples served as centers for art, music, dance, supported by royal patronage. All these reasons led to the development of the temples. If you want to know about temples' socio-cultural reflections, You can understand this from the grandeur and the scale of temples like the Brihadeshwara temple in Thanjavur reflect the might and resources of the Chola Empire. The placement of different idols and access restrictions within the temple complex mirror the social stratification of medieval South Indian society. Intricate carvings and sculpture, as seen in the Meenakshi temple in Madurai, indicate the economic affluence and the skilled craftsmanship of the period. Temples were not just religious centers, but also hubs for cultural activities, fostering the growth of classical arts and literature. Dravidian temple architecture plays a grand role in India's cultural heritage, showcasing the confluence of religious devotion, royal patronage, and artistic excellence. Influences from various dynasties and the socio-economic conditions of the time contributed to the development of this unique architectural style, leaving a lasting legacy on the cultural landscape of South India. Now, do let me know in the comment section what are the key differences between Dravidian and Nagara temple architecture. That wraps up our temple odyssey for today. Remember, these temples aren't mere stone and mortar, they are repositories of faith, art, and history. Until next time, this is Falcon signing off from Timeless Temples. Stay curious and stay inspired.
Hello, salam, namaste everyone. This is your host Mr. Diplomat and welcome to Srijan India One's Community Podcast. A podcast where we try to learn the A to Z of international relations, our neighbors and much more. Do check out our previous episodes if you haven't yet. Our today's question concerns our most talked about neighbor, Pakistan. The question is, the India-Pakistan relationship has been characterized by both conflict and cooperation. Discuss the major issues and challenges in India-Pakistan relations and suggest measures to improve bilateral ties. This question appeared in the 2018 UPSC CSE mains examination. Let's try answering it. India and Pakistan, both nuclear-armed neighbors, have a complex and multifaceted relationship shaped by historical grievances, territorial disputes, and strategic competition. Since their partition in 1947, the relationship has been characterized by both conflict and cooperation, marked by wars, skirmishes, diplomatic engagements, and peace initiatives. The dynamics between these two nations have significant implications, not only for South Asia but also for global security. Now let's look at the major issues and challenges in India-Pakistan relations. Territorial disputes. The most prominent and enduring issue is the territorial dispute over Jammu and Kashmir. Both countries claim the region in full but control parts of it. The conflict has led to multiple wars and ongoing military skirmishes along the line of control. Another contentious area is the Siachen Glacier, where both countries maintain a military presence at high altitudes, leading to significant human and financial costs. Cross-border terrorism. India has repeatedly accused Pakistan of supporting and harboring terrorist organizations that carry out attacks on Indian soil. Notable incidents include the 2001 Parliament attack, the 2008 Mumbai attacks, and the 2016 Pathankot attack. Pakistan's alleged support for groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed remains a significant barrier to peace. Water disputes. The Indus Water Treaty 1960 has generally held, but disputes over water sharing, particularly regarding the constructions of dams by India on rivers flowing into Pakistan, have caused tensions. Pakistan fears that India's water projects might reduce its share of water, affecting agriculture and livelihoods. Nuclear arms race. Both countries possess nuclear weapons, and their military doctrines include the possibility of nuclear escalation. The nuclear dimension adds a dangerous element to their rivalry, raising global concerns about the potential for conflict to spiral out of control. Trade and economic cooperation. Despite the geographical proximity, trade between India and Pakistan is minimal due to high tariffs, non-tariff barriers, and political hostility. The potential for economic cooperation, which could benefit both economies, remains largely untapped. Diplomatic deadlock. The bilateral dialogue process has been frequently interrupted due to incidents of terrorism and military skirmishes. Trust deficit, mutual suspicions, and lack of consistent diplomatic engagement have prevented meaningful progress in resolving disputes. What are some measures which can improve the bilateral ties between the two countries? Reviving dialogue. Uninterrupted and uninterruptible dialogue. A sustained and comprehensive dialogue process is essential to address all bilateral issues. Establishing back-channel diplomacy can also help in resolving sensitive issues away from public scrutiny. Counter-terrorism cooperation. Both nations should work together on counter-terrorism initiatives, sharing intelligence and coordinating efforts to eliminate terrorist networks. Pakistan needs to take credible and visible actions against terrorist groups operating from its soil to build trust. Confidence-building measures, CBMs such as military-to-military talks, people-to-people contacts, cultural exchanges, and easing visa restrictions can help reduce mistrust and build a foundation for more substantial cooperation. Trade normalization. Both countries should engage in proactive and transparent dialogue on water-sharing issues, possibly under the aegis of neutral international mediators. Joint water management projects and environmental cooperation can also help mitigate tensions. Regional cooperation. Strengthening cooperation through regional platforms like the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, can create a conducive environment for bilateral dialogue. Joint participation in regional development projects could also reduce animosities. In conclusion, the India-Pakistan relationship is fraught with challenges, but the potential for peace and cooperation exists. Addressing the underlying issues through sustained dialogue, mutual trust, and regional cooperation is crucial for improving bilateral ties. Both nations stand to benefit from a stable and peaceful relationship, which is essential not only for their own prosperity but also for regional and global security. Hope you liked today's session. As we part ways, here are 2 questions for you to answer. Question number 1. Critically examine the implications of the Indus Water Treaty on India-Pakistan relations in the present context. Question 2. Analyze the strategic implications of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC) on India-Pakistan relations. You can answer these at our official website mentioned in the description below. See you in the next episode. Until then, this is your host, Mr. Diplomat, running away to a secret global meeting to get you a fresh podcast for tomorrow. Bye, adios, alvida everyone.
Namaste, welcome back to another episode of Time Travels with Unicorn, where we embark on magical journeys through the ancient history of India. I'm your host, Unicorn, and today we are going to enter the new era of ancient India. If you have been following along, in the last episode, we explored the Vedic and later Vedic periods, setting the stage for today's discussion, that is, Mahajanapada period. Alright, now tell me, how many of you remember Vedic period? Do you remember we saw the transition from a pastoral society to a more settled agrarian one? Now, as we move into Mahajanapada period, this agrarian society had matured, leading to the emergence of these large political units called Mahajanapads. Now you must be wondering, but why were they so important? Don't worry, let me break it down for you. First off, the term Mahajanapad itself is quite telling. Maha means great, and Janpad refers to the land where people settled. So, these were essentially large established regions, each with its own political and economic identity. There were 16 in total, spread across the Indo-Gangetic plains. Another intriguing aspect of this period is the socio-economic structure. Agriculture was the backbone, but there was a significant rise in trade and urbanization too. You could almost call it an economic boom. Cities like Vaishali, Rajgir and Kashi became bustling hubs of commerce. With this, the use of punch-marked coins began, marking a shift from barter system to monetary transactions. And guess what? The first inscription in ancient India were also written in this time in Brahmi script. Now here's where things get interesting. These Mahajanapads were not just random territories. They were highly organized states. Some were monarchies and others were republic. The republics or Ganarajya are particularly fascinating. Think of them as early experiments in democratic governance. Yes, democracy in ancient India. These republics, like famous Vajji Confederation, were governed by assemblies of clans or tribes rather than a single ruler. A bit of a precursor to modern parliamentary system. Now you have to tell the name of one more republic Mahajanpad other than Vajji. And that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope you found our journey through Mahajanpad period insightful. This was part 1 of this era, in which we understood the socio-economic structure of Mahajanpad period. In our next episode, we'll dive into part 2, where we will experience the rise of Magad Empire. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your thoughts and questions with us. This is Unicorn signing off. Until then, keep revising, stay curious, and let history inspire you.
Hello and namaste everyone. Welcome to Srijan India One's community-led series Podcast 1. I'm your host Atish on Science and Technology segment of the series. Today, we will discuss on the question, write a short note on weather prediction by IMD and how does it showcases the current technological progress. Pinpoint the challenges in Indian context. In order to answer the question, let us understand the different aspects. The Indian Meteorological Department plays a crucial role in weather prediction and showcases significant technological progress. Let us explore the technological advancement and importance. IMD has made a remarkable stride in the weather forecasting, benefiting various sectors. Being an agriculture-based economy, which is highly dependent on the rainfall for irrigation and intends to realize the best output in order to achieve the food security, it becomes absolutely crucial to have a most precise prediction of the weather. In order to do so, there are few very important things that needs to be monitored. These are the historical data. So, IMD stores the historical data dating back to 1901, which tells us how the pattern has been over the centuries, decades, years, months and days, now even tracking the real-time data. This data, which is so connected, is huge in volume and needs to be refined before it is sent to the prediction algorithm. Once the data is proved to remove the abnormalities like outlier, corrupt data, etc., it is sent to a pre-trained model, which could be as simple as Markov model or as complex as feedback-oriented recursive neural networks, which creates a parameter-based fitting formula in order to perform the prediction analysis. Here, just keep a note of the names like Markov model and recursive neural network. These data can further be plotted into maps to provide a visual interpretation of the data. For example, in India's map, we chart how the weather
in the state Uttar Pradesh or maybe West Bengal or Maharashtra. Here, I have explained the process, keeping it brief and crisp. Now, let us understand the technological progress. IMD uses a dedicated artificial intelligence and machine learning to harness AI and ML to enhance weather forecasting, running multiple models to produce a compromise between the accuracy and the variable, providing the chance in terms of percentage. IMD deploys a network of 39 Doppler weather radar covering 85% of India's landmass. These radars enable hourly forecast for prominent cities and enhance the accuracy. IMD aims to provide forecast at the panchayat or village level, for which it uses hyper-localized forecast, tailoring weather information for the specific sectors like agriculture, health, urban planning, which are the priority. It also addresses the mesoscale phenomena, example, convective cloud affecting the local communities occurring mostly due to the climate change. Now, let us discuss about the challenges in terms of Indian context. Large land area and high population density, tagged along with the high variability of the geographical features like mountain, ranges, plateau, coastal area, snow desert to the Thar desert, area with the highest rainfall across the world. These separate geographical features creates a very high complexity for the algorithm execution, as it requires too much processing. Most of the algorithms are executed on supercomputers, where Indian supercomputing mission plays a crucial role. Although IMD has placed huge number of on-site and off-site devices, it still fails to capture the transmitted information due to the techno-economical constraint as well as data corruption. IMD stands tall in alerting us with the information, yet it has been observed that it has a bit low accuracy. IMD forecast issues for Mumbai went up to 42% in the month of July, as was evident in yesterday's rampant rain of around 250 plus mm of the rainfall in a day. Climate change is also an issue which causes change in the historical pattern, affecting algorithms' predictabilities. Although IMD still needs certain improvement, but yet it still plays a very important role in realizing the India's endeavor of disaster relief by predicting cyclones or droughts, predicting monsoon and weather patterns, and aiding public life by providing an informed approach to life, defending against the ill effects of the climate change as well. I hope you find this video helpful in constructing your answer. For more such videos and content, follow your host Atish at Srijanindiaone. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed.
Hello listeners, welcome to another episode of Understanding Bharat, where we break down complex issues of Indian polity, governance and society into bite-sized, digestible conversations. This is your host Agnes, and today we are diving into another important aspect of Indian democracy, judicial review, with the help of a question. Judicial review is an essential part of the basic structure of the Constitution of India. Discuss its scope and limitations with reference to recent judgments. So buckle up as we embark on this constitutional journey. Before we start, let's understand judicial review. What exactly is it? In simple terms, it is the power of the judiciary to examine the constitutionality of legislative acts and executive orders. If a law or order is found to violate the Constitution, the judiciary has the authority to strike it down. Now, how does this tie into the basic structure of the Constitution? The basic structure doctrine was established by the Supreme Court of India in the landmark Kesavananda Bharati case in 1973. This doctrine holds that certain fundamental aspects of the Constitution, like judicial review, cannot be altered or destroyed through amendments by Parliament. This ensures that even as the Constitution evolves, its core principles remain intact. without judicial review, this safeguarding mechanism would crumble, risking arbitrary or authoritarian use of power by the legislature or executive. Now let's discuss its scope. Judicial review in India broadly covers three main areas. Number 1. Legislative actions. The judiciary reviews the validity of laws passed by Parliament and state legislatures. For instance, in the I.R. Coelho case 2007, the Supreme Court held that even laws placed under the 9th schedule of the Constitution are subject to judicial review if they violate fundamental rights. Number 2. Executive actions. The judiciary also scrutinizes executive orders and actions. In the Menka Gandhi case 1978, Supreme Court expanded the scope of judicial review by stating that any law or executive action must not only be valid but also just, fair and reasonable. Number 3. Constitutional amendments. Judicial review extends to the amendments made by the Constitution itself, as highlighted in the Kesavananda Bharati case. This ensures that any amendment does not violate the basic structure of the Constitution. However, the power of judicial review is not without its limitations. Number 1. Separation of powers. The judiciary must respect the domain of the legislature and executive as per the principle of separation of powers. In S.R. Bommai case 1994, the Supreme Court upheld the dismissal of state governments but also reiterated that judicial review should not encroach upon the powers of the executive. Number 2. Political questions doctrine. Courts often avoid deciding on matters that are purely political in nature, leaving them to the discretion of elected representatives. For example, in the Raja Rampal case 2007, while the Supreme Court asserted its right to review parliamentary proceedings in the case of illegality, it also recognized that need to avoid interfering in purely political matters. Number 3. Judicial overreach. There is a thin line between judicial activism and judicial overreach. The judiciary must avoid making decisions that effectively create new laws, as this encroaches on the legislative domain. Critics argue that in cases like the Aruna Schanberg 2011 decision on euthanasia, the judiciary may have ventured into the legislative territory. Respect for constitutional amendments. While the judiciary can review constitutional amendments, it must also respect the intent of Parliament provided the amendments do not alter the basic structure. The recent K.S. Puttaswamy judgment 2017, which declared the right to privacy as a fundamental right, showcased judicial review respecting the broader constitutional framework. To sum up, judicial review is a critical tool for maintaining the constitutional balance in India. It ensures that legislature and executive remain within their constitutional bounds, protecting citizens' rights and upholding the rule of law. However, this power must be exercised with caution, respecting the separation of powers and avoiding overreach. As we continue to witness the evolving role of judiciary in India, it's clear that judicial review will remain an essential part of our constitutional fabric, guarding the basic structure and guiding the nation's democratic journey. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Understanding Bharat. If you found today's discussion insightful, don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us next time as we explore more facets of our Bharat. This is your host Ignis, signing out. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and keep the spirit of democracy alive. Jai Hind.